Welcome to Coffee with the Sarlos. We are your hosts of the show, Karen and Kelly Sarlo. Whether you're struggling with grief or you just need answers, we connect you with spirit to find relief, clarity, and direction in life. We can help you move forward.
Good morning, Kelly. I have a wonderful story for today.
Okay.
It's a toughie, and we're going to get right into it. Our client's name is Gloria, and she starts her session by saying to me, I understand from listening to the podcast shows that I could call you and Kelly and simply say a person's name, and you're going to give me some information from the spirit guides. I understand it's not from you because you don't know them. About the person, perhaps about our contract between the two of us, what we're both supposed to learn, or just sometimes something that's going on. Is that something that I can do? Can I just give you somebody's name? And I said, yes. And she goes, okay, the person's name is Lee. And the spirit guides started and said, Lee is a female, which is good because that can go either way as far as I know. Mm-hmm. And I asked her and she said that was correct. And she goes, oh, right. You're going to say things to me and they're going to be that I'm supposed to just give you yes answers because you're just repeating what the spirit guides are telling you. That's how this works, right? And I said, yes. And if I'm wrong, please tell me when I'm wrong. So then the guide said, Lee is her sister, actually, and Gloria is the older of the two girls. So I asked her that, and she said that was correct as well. And now we're getting into like a good flow together with the spirit guides. And I said to the guides, what is she looking for? What's going on with her and her sibling? And the guides said, well, we're going to give you another couple of validations. She and her sister have not lived in the same city for decades. And now it's also important to say that I'm also being told that both of these sisters are older. They're over 50. And she confirms that. And I said the guides also said that they had lived apart. I'll say since probably both of them reaching their teens and early 20s. And the guides, or I repeated that to her and she said that was correct as well. And they even said they even went as far as to say that they lived in different countries. And she went, yeah, so we're just getting some good validations. That's it, just building rapport and trust. And then I said to the guides, okay, can we get into it? What's going on? What does she need to know? And they said, well, Lee and Gloria have these ups and downs in their relationships where they're close for a period of time. They communicate, which would have to be by telephone or by text or computers, all of this kind of stuff, for the most part. And they get close. And Gloria, in particular, seeks closeness because of her personality. This is something she's looking for in relationships and values. And while it can be okay at times, and she thinks it's going well, it always ends in the same cycle where Lee pulls away and stops responding or just falls away by not returning texts, by not staying in the conversation, or where the conversation can change just to become more general instead of a closeness in the conversation. And this cycle has been going on for decades for both of these women. So you can tell Gloria that and ask her if that's all correct. So I did, and she said, yeah. She said, that is our relationship. And the guides then pointed out that Gloria had decided through the years to educate herself about life, just about herself, about her own personality, her own attachment styles, where she was being healthy in this relationship and where she wasn't being healthy because she wasn't happy. She didn't like what was going on, but she also just didn't understand it.
I like that you called educating yourself about life and equated it with understanding personality and behavior. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's a connection that a lot of people would make.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, life could have been about history and geography and environmental things.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So Gloria does a lot of work in terms of therapy, in terms of reading, listening to things, but she also creates family. She also creates new relationships as she's going through all of these processes of how do I become healthier. So she learns of the forms of verbal abuse. She learns about her own freaking people-pleasing patterns, which is key to why she stays and goes in the ups and downs in the relationship with her sister Lee. So she starts to go, Jesus, I've got all these core beliefs around people-pleasing. This is me. This is why I keep trying. This is why I keep coming to the table to make these efforts. I have to deal with my own patterns. And she works really hard to deal with her own patterns to end them. And she does a lot of this with her own family and with her own friends. So when there are unhealthy relationships around her in her life, she does that work to tackle what her own people-pleasing actually looks like in her actions and in her words. And this brings other relationships to an end for her where she sees the other person is not healthy and she can't move forward with them. So she starts to understand, okay, some of these relationships can't last if I'm the one that's going to get healthy.
And what's not being said is if the other person is not willing to do their work or able.
Oh, I love that.
Because people can be unhealthy and grow.
Yeah.
Like Gloria.
Yeah.
But if you have no interest in growing and someone else is, there's a stagnancy. Like the relationship has to stagnate at a certain point or someone chooses to end it.
Yeah, and she's been through this several times in many relationships where she tries to value that process, Kelly, where you sit in a process with someone to see, are they actually going to do this? And when they don't, then she makes the decision, I'm not going to stay. And sometimes she just looks at the behavior that they've had and doesn't see any change or any willingness and just decides, I'm not going to even step in and wait. I'm just going to move on. Because remember, she's now got healthier relationships. She's now deciding where she's spending her energy. And she's deciding because she has self-worth. So in that self-worth, she's got different tools to say, because I'm no longer people-pleasing, because I'm no longer in my own unhealthy patterns, there are things that I want more of in my life, and I want to give my time and my energy to these relationships. I checked in with Gloria and asked her if all of the information was accurate for her, and she said yes. And then she asked what had happened recently. And I asked the guides, I said, okay, she's asking what's going on currently. And the spirit world came in and said that recently Lee had reached out again. So they're back into another cycle. But this time the guide said Lee did the reaching out. And that would be significant to say.
Okay, so, sorry, just to clarify, are these their real names or did you choose these names?
No, these are not their real names.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
changed them.
I totally forgot. No, these are not their real names. Thank you. Usually
I'm sensing this is about to get real, and I just want to make sure. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. So I can't remember where I was at, but
Lee reached out, and this is significant.
So Lee reaches out, and the guides say that this is significant. Please say this to Gloria, because Gloria now is doing her work not to do the reaching out anymore. She's trying to break a pattern, right? So she's not running after her sister Lee to say, what can we do? How can we get together? Do you want to do this? She's not doing that now. And she's just sitting in that space of, not only am I not going to do that because I have to break these patterns, I have to see and now observe what Lee is actually going to do when I don't do it. Mm-hmm. I have to see what her feelings are going to be, what her behavior is going to be, and how she responds, because this is going to be a breaking of patterns for Lee too. So this might not bring out, I don't want to say the best, but this just might bring out other issues. But what Gloria is also doing during this period of time is she's off in her own space where she's actually focusing on all the other aspects of her life, and she's not ruminating. So this is also a pattern breaking for Gloria, not to go into rumination over what is Lee thinking, what is Lee doing, what is wrong, what did I say. She's breaking rumination patterns, which I think is really a good thing to point out. That while it looks like silence, there's actually a lot going on. Mm-hmm. There's a ton. And so I'm saying this to Gloria. I said, well, God, you're busy here because you're actually stopping your rumination, and you have to catch it when you want to get into it again, because that's decades-long patterning, right? And when you go to ruminate, you are, nope, I'm going to refocus. What am I doing today? Where am I going? So the guys are describing how she's actually trying to figure out how to break a pattern. And where she chooses to put that energy to go forth in that pattern. So is she just exchanging it to worry about something else? Yep. Does she fall back into the hole and think, what does the family think? Or how will other people judge me? Am I being kind? Like she's like, or is this my people pleasing now? So are my people pleasing beliefs coming in and beating me up? And am I going into my own self verbal abuse? And stops herself and focuses on, okay, what do I want out of my day? What am I doing next? Who am I hanging out with? Or what fun things am I doing? Or what do I need to eat today to be healthy? She purposely tries to focus on healthy thinking and staying in that area. And she said, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. She said, this is so cool to hear that the spirit world knows how hard I'm working.
Well, and that they're also validating that is in fact hard work, because there are a lot of people, I'm sure, that are listening to this today and will think like, wow, she's really selfish, or wow, she's really self-centered, or wow, like how did she get to this place where she could just ignore other people's needs and feelings? That's so mean, right? Like people will be in a deep-seated resistance. I was going to use a different word, but I'll say resistance to what Gloria is doing, because it can look like the opposite of kind or the opposite of relationship building, when in fact that's not the case.
Thank you.
That is a lot of work. So it's a huge validation for Gloria to understand what it is versus what other people will want to tell her it is.
Yes, thank you. So as she learns and makes her conscious choices as to what I am thinking, then when her and Lee might come back together to talk, and Lee might say, you were mean, or whatever she wants, it doesn't matter, or someone else tries it, whomever that is, Gloria gets to sit in her self-worth and her self-awareness and know and be able to say to herself and others, that's not correct. There's a confidence building here because she's doing that work and knows exactly what it is she is doing. She's not sitting in that ruminating. She's not doing it to pick a fight. She's not doing it just to get attention or to say, I'm sick and tired of chasing you. You chase me. This isn't a tit for tat. Let's get dirty about it. This is really somebody who's just sitting there and saying,
this is called non-attachment.
Bingo.
It's not detaching, right? Where you're being cold or malicious or creating separateness for the sake of, unhealth. It's non-attachment.
Mm-hmm. And she's working very hard here on moving into a secure attachment style with herself and with healthier people. So she's focusing, she's putting the energy, she's choosing to say, I'm spending my time with this person, X or, whoever you want to call them, A, B, or C. And she's saying, I'm spending my time here trying to create healthy attachment styles, not the anxious avoidant, and all of the other styles, I'm not trying to work on those anymore. I'm trying to move in a different direction. So we just had a moment where she got to just sit in that and feel good that the spirit world knew it. And then she said, okay, are you okay to continue? I've got a little bit more time and I want to stay here. I want to continue to know about what's going on with myself and if I need to continue to learn. If you have anything to say about what Lee is doing or how this is going to go forward for us, I'd just like to know anything the guides want me to know. So the guides came in and said that actually what had just recently occurred was Lee had reached out and she wasn't responding. Gloria wasn't responding in the way that she used to. And now Lee is in confusion. Now Lee doesn't understand what's going on. And she's going through her own stuff. And Gloria said, okay, that makes sense. That's true. She did reach out and I have not responded in the ways that I have in the past.
Yeah, you broke the mold. So now we don't know what roles we're playing anymore.
Yes, exactly. And I said, as far, like one of the things I can see that Lee is doing is that she has said that she needs her own time to think about it and that she needs her own time to process this. So Lee approached her and asked her what was going on. And Gloria began by saying, I'm breaking my patterns. I recognize what you and I have been doing in our past, and I no longer want to do it. I don't want to come back to the relationship and struggle and get close again and then have it all disintegrate again. And I don't know what's coming. I don't know when it's coming. I don't, well, you can imagine the anxiety somebody has if you're constantly trying to come to a relationship and work on it. And the pattern is that they're going to just walk away and not speak to you. So she's saying, I just don't want to be part of this anymore. And I don't want to do that. And Lee doesn't totally want to see all of that yet. She doesn't want to understand everything that Gloria could be feeling or everything that Gloria could be wanting to put an end to. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to have to put the effort in, the time in, all of these things so that at any time you get to just decide you're done and then repeat again and again. So Lee is in a conundrum right now, and she's in a mess of her own, I guess, thoughts and feelings, really.
Yeah.
To be able to say, well, how do you come back? And what do I own in any of this?
Yeah, I think you're jumping to some really big questions too, and they're good ones, but I think there's a whole lot happening before Lee is probably even able to ask those questions because when someone points out to you, calls you out essentially and says, this is what you do in our relationship, right? And no matter how nicely that you can present it, no matter how matter of fact, like, hey, the pattern is I reach out and you pull away. Like that's a very gentle way of saying it, but it's still laying out an unflattering fact about someone, right? And if you are not in a place like Lee to be able to receive this feedback and own what's yours, then it can just feel accusatory. It can just feel like blame and shame. And the thing is that if they're not emotionally mature, shame will sit at the bottom of that anyway, right? A little combination of guilt and shame. Guilt, I know what I did was wrong, or I know that what she is telling me I'm doing is wrong. Shit, I've got to reflect on whether or not it's true. And then the shame of, if I did do that, like there's this feeling of, is something wrong with me that I'm doing that, right? And I'm not saying that this is a messy conversation. I'm not saying that I wish shame on Lee or anyone in Lee's position. It's a good moment if shame creeps in to sort of go, ooh, okay, hang on. Shame is present. What can I learn? What about me am I believing is bad? Is it who I am or just something I did, right? Like we can get really curious about these feelings. If we have enough self-awareness and self-esteem in other areas of our life to sit in the discomfort, to ask those hard questions. But if Lee is used to running, ghosting, pulling the lever of control whenever she wants or doesn't want to be in a relationship, I don't know if shame is something she really wants to sit with and be honest about. And your story may prove me wrong. I'm just saying that is a really big, big hurdle to get over if you're not in the practice of it.
The guide said that what Gloria did too in the conversation was explain that she still wanted a relationship with Lee, but on or was willing to offer one as sisters, but on more of a surface level, that because she doesn't want to get deeply invested in it. So she's willing to chat or to stay in touch, but she's not willing to go further or to initiate deep conversations, or even on a more consistent basis. She wants her own energy and her own time for her own life and the other relationships. And this is something that Lee, I think, is considering. And Gloria asked about it and said, where's she at with that? And the guide said that she's still in a process of figuring all of this out because there's a lot of confusion.
Well, and probably a lot of hurt. Like I don't ever want to put words in people's mouths, but when you think that you have a close relationship, or you did have a close relationship at one point in time, and then you're hearing from someone like, hey, I would love to keep you in my life, but I would love to intentionally keep you at arm's distance because I don't trust you. I don't know if I even really like you, because this is what it's sounding like in a lot of this, right? Like there has to be a certain level of I don't know if I like this person, if this is their behavior and what they think is close. So to receive that information that someone would like to keep me at an arm's distance is pretty insulting, fairly insulting. Like, and I mean, it is fair to feel that way. That's tough, because there's also this feeling of like, well, even if I do engage in this surface level conversation with my sister, anyone for that matter, it's a constant reminder that I'm not allowed to go deep with this person. This person doesn't want me to go deep with them because they don't trust me. It's not a fun invitation.
I can totally see that it is not. I get that. And it's part of the reason why Gloria didn't want to reach out and say, hey, here's what's going on in our relationship. This is why I don't want to engage anymore, because there's no real nice way to say this based on our relationship and what's happened in the past.
Right.
And how many times Gloria has tried to not do the ups and downs, didn't feel that there really were any other choices when that was the pattern, and that this is a consequence of that kind of behavior. Not that she intends to say to Lee, come here, I want to hurt you. She was just trying to say by withdrawing that there was already all this withdrawing before. So if I just do it as well, then maybe you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Because you've already always been doing the withdrawing.
Yeah.
So if I just stay to the withdrawing this time and I don't reach out, maybe you'll get what you actually wanted. And now that you're saying, wait a minute, you actually want more, it's like, well, what?
It sounds, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds more like Lee just wants control on her terms, right, when she desires, what she desires, and then when she's done with it, she's done with it for a period of time.
Yes, and this is where Gloria is sitting there going, I don't want to participate in that anymore. And so do I ghost you? And if I ghost you, then it's that she may see that as being, I didn't want to ghost you. That's not my personality.
Yeah.
That's not how I want to treat anybody. But what are the other choices?
Yeah, your other choice is to have an uncomfortable, truthful conversation that is going to hurt.
Exactly. Which is not Gloria's intention, but feels like, what are all of the other options other than just repeating this pattern with you and staying in the place where I don't want to be? And that goes to the people pleasing, and she would be right back in the pattern she's trying to break.
Yeah.
So the guides are sitting there saying to Gloria, you're doing the best job you can. And that this isn't an easy job or a kind job or one where you're going to come out of it no matter what you do, other than looking good to other people, especially to Lee or to anybody else really, unless they truly understand the depth of that relationship over all of their lives together. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So at the end of that, because that was it, that was the end of Gloria's time. And she said, I just really want to say how much this means to me, because it allows me to know that the spirit guides are really seeing the fact that I'm working as hard as I can in a situation where there's really no way to come out of this without hurting her, if I'm actually going to be authentic. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm actually going to grow and be authentic, it looks like I'm going to have to hurt somebody I really do care about, but need to set boundaries with. Mm-hmm. So while it was a difficult session, you could see that Gloria came out of it feeling like, okay, at least I know I'm doing something that's healthy for myself.
It's interesting. I wouldn't have even labeled it difficult. Simply because the way that you're presenting Gloria's behavior in the session is receptive, is willing participant to affirm the information that's coming through. It's unfortunate, the situation that she's in. It is, we could pull out the wheel of emotion and use a lot of different terms in that third tier of sadness. Yeah. For sure, for probably both Lee and Gloria. But I wouldn't have labeled that a difficult session.
Good enough.
Yeah, because it sounds like you were treated with respect. The guides were treated with respect. And true. Gloria just showed up to say, like, I'm seeking authenticity. And here the guides were actually able to affirm that is, in fact, what she's doing. Mm-hmm. We rebranded with wonderful help, with this beautiful slogan, connecting you with spirit to provide you with clarity, relief, and direction. Mm-hmm. And I think about Gloria as this like perfect example of what that is and what that looks like in a session, right? Clarity of what's really happening. And it just so happened that she had clarity, so she received validation, right? Relief in the sense that she's right. Relief in the sense that she's seeing things for what they are, and the direction that she's taken is in fact the right one, right? So there wasn't a need for a course correction from the guides. It was actually to say, we're right there with you, you're right there with us, and we're doing okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, because I think, she could read as many self-help development books as she wants, and she'd find the validation in them if they're not outdated, but that would take a long, long time. And she's done a lot of that, right? And she's trying to piece them all together and say, am I really understanding the literature that I'm taking in? I don't know. I shouldn't say I don't know. I don't want to disqualify myself. She's doing a fantastic job. And it's cool that she invited the guides to be a part of that.
Thank you for adding all of that, Kelly.
Thanks for listening to Coffee with the Sarlos. If you enjoyed the show today, help spread the love with a like, share, or review of the podcast. See you next Saturday with a brand new episode.